I'll be looking at the mixed candy concept, the mixed candy concept being utilizing SynthEdit VSTs to bring a modular DSP environment to FL Studio's patcher. Going into FL Studio, I have already exported a whole bunch of different nodes for math and a couple transformers. Right now I am attempting to do frequency modulation. I attempted it before by using the internal pin on the oscillator. Unfortunately, that fell apart as polyphony was crashing into each other, and I'm imagining that's going to happen again is because the patcher environment doesn't handle voice polyphony as well as, how would you say, the SynthEdit environment, or an environment made for handling internal polyphony. I could be wrong. Maybe it'll work. So in order to do frequency modulation, if my memory serves me correct, it is one oscillator's volume being controlled by a fast vibrato from another oscillator. So I have a VCA here. Recently, I upgraded it to have a response curve, or a selectable response curve. So for this, I'm going to bring in a new input, as it has two inputs, one for signal, one for volume. So the carrier oscillator is going to go to signal. I need to go into the VCA, go to processing and auto map inputs before I can have these properly routed. So the first one is signal, and the second one is volume. Now from the second oscillator, I'm bringing that in as the volume. And then the output is going to go straight to FL Studio. Right now, the oscillators operate between +5 and -5, which means when the volume goes below 0, it's not really going to do anything. What I need to do is adjust that -5 up to 0, pushing the 5 up to 10. So at the peak of the oscillator's sine wave top, I guess, plus polarity, it will be full volume, and at the bottom of the sine waves polarity, it'll be at the 0. So I created an adjust volt just for these types of situations. Of course you can't see it, but it's just a volt knob, and I'm going to push that to 5. So now that's adjusting the range of the oscillator. So from there I could take a listen. And needs more volume. And both waveforms are sinusoid. I'm not sure why it's so quiet. Perhaps maybe the adjust isn't working properly. So it probably needs the add. It probably doesn't, you say, sum that way. So I need to bring in a new input for the add. Audio add 1. And add this to the +5. And then the output. And it sounds like there is some amplitude modulation. Again, I'm uncertain why it is so quiet. I'm going to check a different response curve here, an exponential. Just look, the waveform isn't behaving so well either. Ooh. And I'm sure I set the inputs for that. The inputs are right. What about just as is? Hit nothing as is. All right. The volume parameter isn't actually controlled. Just response curve is there. There's no parameter for volume here. So I'm going to jump to SynthEdit and take a look at the VCA. See what it's set to. It is set to 8. So, as it stands, it comes out 8. I'm going to direct line out of patcher. Back into VCA. And nothing. I don't think the outputs have to be set. Back into SynthEdit. VCA looks totally fine. I'm not sure why. It's giving me a hard time. Back into FL Studio. And we'll test 10 volts into the VCA. And still nothing. I think maybe sending out a direct stream at 10 isn't actually doing anything. Because with the oscillator it is. Well, there definitely is some level there. I'm not sure what's going on. It's pretty obvious that it's not working out. As we can see, the notes are crashing into each other. It's like a chord going into the... It's a chord going into one frequency modulation. So it's adding them together. Whereas it should be splitting each carrier and modulator. The environment, the patcher environment just isn't made for it. So what can happen for additional testing may be to just okay, I don't believe my adjust is working at all. Perhaps one way to check is with a visual. Bring in wave candy and see what kind of signal this is giving. It's giving no signal. And it is classifying it as an adjust or an effects. But it doesn't have an output, even though it says it does. Back into SynthEdit, look at the adjust. It's because it is a float. So this has to be changed. I need to go back into FL Studio and remove the adjust. Back into SynthEdit and change this into a float. So we'll go math and just whatever. And send that out as a volt. And save and export. And I was sure I closed it in FL Studio, but apparently not. Add. Whatever. I'll save this project as is. And close FL Studio. Head back to SynthEdit. And I have to do that again. No, it's done. So build. Okay. Open FL Studio. It's done building in SynthEdit. Reload the standard oscillator project. Re-add the adjust. Take a look. Adjust it. There we go. Now we're getting some sort of response out of it. It'll always be a steady voltage control here, so I need that at 5. Get rid of wave candy now. And take that and put it to add. Well, maybe don't even need add anymore. Go into volume from the oscillator, and it should be full volume now. And it's not. A little bit more. It's working. Just not sure why it's not working properly. So I'm going to actually bring in the add again. Add a new input. Auto map those inputs. Add them together. This needs to be 5. And then output to volume. All right, let's see what we can do for some speed here. So that's set. And it's just not going to work out, I don't think. I mean, it'll work fine as a mono oscillator, I guess. All right. So it just works That works. Let's check out divide. And adjust. Bring it adjust again. This will be our second parameter for divide. And divide, we need to bring in a new audio signal, which needs to be auto mapped. Oops. Wrong button. Now what the accomplishment is here is bringing in two different oscillators and then dividing them by themselves. So I'm not sure how this is going to work out. So just bring in the adjust and we'll set that to 10. So we have a full VCA. It's generally just 2, and that's really high to be high pitched. Let's put it on standard pitch. Still sounds really high pitched. Also sounds really clicky. All right, and then I'll change that to a saw. Let's go here. Just normally adding them together. It's twice as loud, so what I want to do is to put them through the divide. I need another adjust. And then make this adjust by 2. The input going to the divide is now 2. And normally need to add them together, but I believe they sum within the port. So, and that is the case. And if I divide them by 1, I should have double the volume. So divide is working. Now try multiply. This additionally is a ring modulator, I believe. So I'm going to approach multiply as a ring modulator. Need to bring in a second input. So voice 1 and voice 2 and VCA, which don't really need, but it's nice to have. Auto map the multiply. And that's why it's nice to have the VCA. Turn that down. Half. Again, though, it can't handle the polyphony of the environment. Chords are smashing right into it. It stands if there's one mono mode. You're still getting crashes. Yup. Therefore, every mixed candy oscillator will have to be its own self-contained synth technique type. Just looking to change something, and I can't remember what I was trying to change. Mono mode. Off. That's disappointing. Well, that's what Patcher is. It is just a chainer environment that has no idea how to deal with polyphony. So that concludes. There's no real point in continuing with this project. It has its own monophonic values. Although, I believe that's as far as I want to take it. So, thanks for watching.